consciousness does is it allows you to kind of step outside, turn subject into object of the primary worldview that provided your center of gravity, your cultural center of gravity, before you became identified with this integral cultural system of agreements. And for almost everybody who is authentically making meaning from this level of cultural development, they either came directly from modernism, mainstream modernity, or they came from progressive postmodernism. And I would say, while these numbers are moving around for the last 20 years, the vast majority of people who are in the integral community, at least, have come directly out of progressive postmodernism, because that's where the integral philosophy comes from to a large degree. It has both modernist and postmodern roots. But I would say that most of the people, and again, this is evolutionarily appropriate, right? Most of the people who are magnetized to this way of thinking are beginning to emerge beyond a progressive postmodern identity. But in my humble experience, the majority of people who are associated with the movement have not transcended progressive postmodernism, that they're still very green and they're oblivious to it. In other words, they adopt the theory and they learn intellectually, they are able to spout the jargon, but when it comes to many of their political positions, cultural orientations, they can't see how much they're still using progressive postmodernism as their center of gravity. And at least from my perspective, one of the characteristics of integral culture is that it's a synthesis, that we recognize we have a duty to honor the entire spiral of development as much as we can, and to bring forward the best of every one of these into a larger cultural whole. And that duty of synthesis, if you're a radical Marxist and you think that capitalism is just pure theft, then you're going to have a hard time integrating modernity, right? Because the key, we certainly want to improve capitalism. Being an integralist doesn't necessarily make you, a capitalist or someone who's oblivious to the significant critiques and ways that capitalism can, be improved. It's inherent pathologies like any, cultural expression. But we want to integrate it. We want to improve it. We want to carry forward. If we want to see it crushed and overthrown and discarded, then that's going to interfere with our ability to make meaning from a synthetic level. Right. Likewise, when it comes to integrating, the very important foundational cultural gifts of traditional consciousness, if we think that religion is just a fairy tale, that anybody who believes in any kind of traditional religious notions is equivalent to believing in the tooth fairy, then you're going to have a hard time inhabiting an authentically synthetic position that could carry forward some of the, kind of eternally true elements. In other words, the ability to tease apart the dignities from the disasters, to recognize the enduring gifts of traditional religions, even while we, get rid of the ethnocentrism and the myths and the bigotry and all of the negative things that are still clearly associated with traditional consciousness. There's an element of that form of consciousness that's a permanent part of any level of higher civilization. And if you're in complete hostility to even the best aspects of these earlier worldviews, then I would argue that you're going to have a hard time gaining a mature integral perspective. Let's put it that way.